Because I've tried that since. Putting a cymbal on a drumstick and someone holding it. And it doesn't actually work very well.
And someone bottled Dave from Suicidal Goldfish.
Everyone was drunk, everyone was drinking, there was loads of people doing drugs, loads of people shagging all over the place.
Look, you're here now. Give me the riff, I'll join in, and let's see how we do.
Would have gone like, yeah, fine, yeah, okay, cool, whatever. But I remember I was very excited.
The new lineup continued where the old one left off, bringing in new ideas, writing new songs and playing new gigs, mainly at the Cartoon. The band wanted to put some of these songs to CD, and while they had previously recorded at John Wingrove's house with the original lineup so we could be on the latest Fruit Machine CD, this time we headed into the studio.
We're going to do a little challenge.
Oh, okay.
We're going to see what I could remember. Right, go on then.
So, for this documentary, I wanted to have see if people remembered much about the Brainfreeze songs, because I obviously, being someone who lives in the past pretty much, I've got a fairly good memory of it. I managed to get through all the old websites, pick up all the old set lists. And so, we had plenty of songs. There was like loads, in fact. To start with, I found a set list from like 2002, which had so we had "Why," which was like one of the original songs. It's a really simple one as well.
Don't remember that.
That was. Rebecca's Revenge, which was one of Alan's.
What was Rebecca's Revenge?
I remember that.
Oh, fair enough. We had
just about.
Joe,
or the title at least.
Now, is there a story to this?
Girls, so many angsty songs about girls.
I did used to love Rebecca's. I hated learning Rebecca's when I started because that transition down the neck from the three Pete's used to screw my head up, and I used to just look at Alan and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? So always going from that like that to that it's like, oh, always a step behind.
Did I write that?
Yeah, you wrote the lyrics to it.
Again, that sounds very young. That sounds like something a teenager would write.
It was Fake Me or Attempt at Punk.
Fake Me was a sort of I think that was the start of and that was reminiscent of the sort of pop punk thing that was happening then.
Yeah.
The Blink-182. So no, I don't include the Offspring to that because, well, the Offspring were elite and I'm a purist. They did it first, it's theirs. Apart from Green Day, I give Green Day fine because they were around for a long time. But it's the other ones, Blink-182, they were doing it. And you just, I found Blink-182 kind
our
of cringy.
attempt.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
they were heavily influenced by the things that we were listening to every day, wherever we were. And
Oh yeah.
even if we weren't conscious about it, deep down, I think we all knew.
Kim loved playing it. Kim was like, yeah, I fucking love playing this song. And like, but it's a punk song and you fucking hate punk. Like, you're quite vocal about it. And
201, which was Joe and Kim, just a little side thing they did.
201. I loved playing that song. I loved the fact that like you said, it was kind of that mid halfway through, like 5 songs in. It's like, all right, you guys take a chill. We'll just do this. And I remember it. I think it was when we were just hanging out. Because obviously being just around the road for me, it's like, oh, I don't jam like thingy. And I remember going around and we were talking about like heavier stuff and going like trying to add some chug. And so I just started making these like heavy riffs I'd kind of had sitting in the back of my mind, and I'd just play along and she'd just start putting a beat to them until it suddenly turned into like a series of 3 sort of heavy choruses, I guess, where it kind of transversed into almost 3 different heavy intros that just happened to start be a song. So she started putting beats to it, and we practiced and practiced like all day, and we somehow got it to be exactly 2 minutes and 1 second every time we played it. I was like, I've got no name for it, nor have you. 201.
You're Evil to Me, which most people probably know. It's probably one of my more popular ones.
That one was mine. I think.
Yeah.
We have one called You're Evil to Me, which I still really like. Not bad to play, but again, that was based on the E-7 that Noel Gallagher invented for Wonderwall. That's where it starts at as well, and that's where I got the idea from. And then I learned that Zombie, Dolores O'Riordan, Cranberries.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in that as well. Right, the first one's in that, and then it jumps up to it and goes back down. It's just turn around in a sort of rectangle, which is what we were doing. It's literally what we were doing with You're Evil to Me, but I think we were completely unconscious of it. I think what happened is we come out with something. It sounded like something we knew about and liked. Maybe we should deliberately ignore the fact that it was a proper rip-off of California Soul, and more importantly, Zombie.
Yeah.
It works.
Oh yeah.
Actually, I still like it.
I think You're Evil to Me was like one of the main songs for some reason, and I say that because it was all right, but like I'm not sure it was one of our better songs. I was saying, The Joke Is Over. I really like that song.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really works. And then, whereas You're Evil to Me was all right. It was good. It was all right. I remember that as our sort of flagship song for some reason.
It was the one we always started with.
Oh right, maybe
it was the one that, like, so we'd always start with do 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 do, and that's how the set started. And there was a bit of a sing along bit as well with the crowd. My time is wasted.
Oh yeah, it was quite good, wasn't it? My time is wasted away.
Yeah.
The main reason I remember Evil to Me is because Andre wrote a parody version of it about having a nosebleed at a bus stop, and like when you sent me the video with Evil to Me on it, like it just came back as like I was waiting for the bus.
The genesis of the song, if you like, was, I think, him and Andre had written, or Andre and someone, perhaps, I seem to remember Andre being involved in this, had written a parody of You're Evil to Me about someone having a nosebleed.
Yeah.
And something about, and instead of my time is wasted, they said my hemoglobin.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. But yeah, so I decided that between me and Creepy we could come up with a better version than that.
I was running for the bus was waiting there for me, and when I saw the driver's face, I took my pass out for him to see. My pass expired today, my pass expired. Oh, £10. £10. £10. That's what I got fined.
The Joke Is Over, which I then stole with my next band, Me, Myself and Your Mum. Insert clip here.
1, 2, 3, go!
That was a personal favourite, actually.
Really? Was it a personal favourite with Brainfreeze or with Me, Myself and Your Mum?
With Brainfreeze, with Brainfreeze initially, but then obviously it was nice to have an element of Brainfreeze within Me, Myself and Your Mum.
Right, okay, The Joke Is Over.
Yeah.
That was the hammer the E string one, wasn't it?
That was dun 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 dun
Sort
dun
of
dun
half
dun
slapbacks,
dun
yeah.
dun 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 dun
Yeah,
dun
it's
dun
all
dun 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 dun.
hitting the bass string with my thumb like that. Went, doo, 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 doo.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it properly. I look back at that and I should have stuck to the pleasure.
There was a Christmas song. We've actually had a couple of Christmas songs. There was one called Christmas, which I do not remember. Well, I remember it, but I don't remember what it sounded like at all. But there was another Christmas song we actually played like a few years or a year later. Once Smeggy and Mark were in the band, which actually instead of having two guitars, we had two basses, which were like intertwining, so there'd be do 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 do, which was actually really cool.
Yeah, and I think we decided to do that. I think because
We'd seen it at the King's Head.
yeah, but it was because it was the first time they really understood that you can hit chords on a bass if you do it right.
Yeah,
it's tricky, but you can. They're open power chords, that kind of a thing, but it does work. And I think it was a conversation with Alan about that gave us the idea of having two basses. So one of them's on the slinky type ones, and then you had the other one which was sounding more like flat band strings. It was more, and it really worked because it almost created a chord without actually just trying to come up with a complicated chord with our own.
there was one called The Unknown, which was a very shouty one. The Unknown was actually one where you didn't play guitar, you screamed.
I got my scream on, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, I remember that.
You went crazy.
I remember because we were doing it and we were playing. I remember I think Alan had it all the guitar planned out, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can really add anything more to it. And I remember we just did it once, and he hit this solo, and I just let out this scream, and you were like, what the fuck was that? I was like, you didn't tell me you could scream. I was like, I didn't know I could scream. Apparently I can.
There was a couple of Slipknot-inspired songs. One called Normality, which Kim wrote, and one called Enemy, which Sean wrote. And they were both very Slipknot.
No, I didn't do that one. Mine was it?
Yeah, that was your one. I on the original, I said I found the original Brainfreeze website. It has the set list from our days back then, and it has all the lyrics from around then. So if I run through the lyrics to Enemy for you.
No, you don't have to. Really, because that obviously means I did that just after a Slipknot gig or something. Because
it is very Slipknot.
That's the first thing I would think. Yeah. Just one word, and I know where that came from.
I'll give you the first verse.
No, don't do it, please.
Okay, no worries.
It's going to be awful, and I'm going to cringe, and I'm going to hate you for it.
Advice, which was a favourite of some of the Big Alex. He loved Advice. I always used to swing the mic over to him when we were playing it, and he enjoyed it. I've been advised by him.
Advice was the one when I sat. That was the chord. That was the chord progression. You know the old soul, the Detroit soul thing. It was about California.
California Soul by Martha something.
That's the one.
Yeah, because
And in the verse,
you posted that the other day, didn't you?
Exactly the same. It's exactly the same wind up, and it's the same thing, and it's very effective.
There was one called Monkey Boy in that early set list, which I do not remember at all. But apparently other members do.
I think, or maybe I don't. Wasn't that I wrote a song called Emo Kid for my own.
That was a different song, that one, because that was
it?
Well, that Emo Kid's on those videos I posted earlier.
Emo Kid was
yeah, that was a different song. That one we actually.
I've not played that in 10 years. I can still remember that.
I remember it.
You do.
And again, yeah, I do remember it. I think you wrote it. Or was it? No, I think you wrote it, and I think it was a reference to Korn. I think.
I've no I lost all memory of this song until I looked at the Brainfreeze website and saw the set list, and it's like at the bottom, it's like and the little news bit that says we debuted 2 new songs, You're Evil to Me and Monkey Boy. I was like, Monkey Boy?
Oh, hold on a minute. Maybe I'm getting it. I mean, it wasn't chord related because I think that evolved into Emo Kid.
It might have.
Now that I think about it,
Actually,
I think that eventually turned into Emo Kid. I think
potentially because Alan
sure
said
of
the
it,
same.
actually.
Alan said the same thing yesterday, and I was like, oh no, that's Emo Kid. We played that later on. But if you've said it as well, then maybe there's some truth
it
to
evolved
it. Yeah.
from it.
Oh.
It was a poppy punk one, and yeah, and it was supposed to be ironic, I think.
Oh, it's just fair
We did it
enough.
like that. We were having a little dig at Dan, in a playful way.
And of course, the old classic, Maggot Sex. How could we forget? Then, like, I also managed to find the last set list we did. With that one, there was actually 3 songs from the old set list. So some of the old songs did carry over. Those ones being "You're Evil to Me," "The Joke Is Over," and "Advice." But we also had some like newer songs which are like better, more technical, in my opinion, and they sound like they were like us properly being a band. So they were "Falling Into the Hole," which is a heavy, beautiful, heavy track.
But I really like the intro to "Falling Into the Hole."
Don't remember that.
That was the yeah. That was my favourite song. We also had
the double time bit, winding it up. We played that in the Metro, didn't we?
Yeah, that
the only song that gig actually worked.
The one I always remember, and I remember it's because you were trying to write it at the time, and it was the line for "Falling to the Hole," and it was just like you were trying to find a line. I was like, "Fuel in the fire, dementia control," and I just came up with it. And you liked it, and you stuck it in the song.
And "Nothing But Nightmares," which had a cool intro, and one of the favourite lines I ever wrote, which is "You crept into my dreams, and now there's nothing but nightmares." Possibly the smartest thing I ever wrote, which isn't saying much. There was another song we wrote around the same time. It was probably the last one we ever wrote, called "Heaven and the Earth," and that was a tune.
I remember that "Heaven and the Earth" song. I remember writing that at Scream. I can't remember how that worked out, if I brought something or Alan brought something or we both brought something that we'd worked on, and then, but I kind of remember being there, and then if I remember right, like you just kind of very quickly picked up the vocal melody, and we just sort of did it. And I think it's like, and it's like, and I loved that, like, it's kind of like, oh, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this, and then half an hour later we've got a song, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, that fucking works, doesn't it? Like that's kind of like probably like if there's a question of like high points, like that's a sort of like, oh yeah, like just that collaboration and the way it kind of slots in. And then
I remember a really, really good one, probably the last song we wrote as a band together. And it was kind of, there was two or three of the last ones, and they were all pretty complicated, pretty good, and actually really well thought out, because we were paying attention to what we were doing at that point, rather than just trying to be a band like we were before, copying everyone else.
You also had some other ones that became classics in the Brainfreeze sense. Those being "My Life," which was the one that we took from Normal.
Did you do like an indie song called "My Life" or something, right?
"Forever Young," which would have often be followed by "This One's Off the CD."
"Forever Young" was a good song. I like that.
I mean, it had such a
There was "Emo Kid," yeah, classic.
I remember Emo Kid. That was quite amusing, and I think that was. I think that was when my band was like kind of flirting with ska, started to like play a lot more ska, and I remember listening to it and I was like, what a dickhead.
But it was actually the lyrics were written about Darren.
Yeah, and it was about like fighting the evil Ska King, and I was like,
yes.
Emo Kid, I think is a little bit close to my heart, not only because it's about Darren Maskell, but there was an occasion when a bunch of us all jumped up on stage at the cartoon to sing along to it, so we could go, "Emo Kid."
I just remember it was penned because I once wore a snapback trucker hat in Fairfield, and you said it was very emo, and I think that was mainly it.
And Suicide Booth, which was originally a song by Alan from one of Alan's solo projects that we enjoyed and stole.
I ripped it off of Alkaline Trio.
Oh, fair enough.
There's an Alkaline Trio song called Radio, which is like this. It goes and that kind of goes on from there. And so I stole that kind of drone idea and did and put it in a minor key, and then we just
drop in, drop out.
That's the one.
That's the one. Sing along, mate.
Oh, there's
I'll bring in some double bass on it because that could work, you know.
Suicide Booth, fantastic song. But that wasn't an early one. That's one we done with
Mark and Smeg.
You and Alan collaborated on that one, and it was, I believe, based on a device in Futurama.
There was
Suicide Booth, actually.
Oh yeah, Suicide.
I actually really liked that song. That was actually a really, really good song.
Suicide Booth was a particular favourite as well.
He used to do artwork, like, you know, drawings and stuff like that, and he usually try and include lyrics to songs. So he'd have, like, you know, a drawing of two figures, like, you know, holding hands or something like that, and the background of it would be lyrics to a song that he really liked or something like that, just sort of drawn across the background behind them. And he'd have stuff like that pinned up all over his bedroom, which, you know, obviously we'd usually be holed up in while he was practicing or recording or whatever.
Yeah.
And I remember one of them being, you know, one of the bits that he had up on the wall being the bit from Suicide Booth. So that always kind of, over time, it just kind of worked its way into my head and didn't quite leave.
I genuinely liked that song, but I think listening back to it now, because we've got the recording of it as well, I think that it was technically beyond our means as a band, including mine, of the idea that we had of it versus our own ability of it. I think it was probably the most probably the most technically involved songs with different sections and a structure and a build over time of the song. I don't think I did it justice.
I remember we recorded like a few, 3 times in total. 2 of them at Soul Space John's house, or John Wingrove, as he had been referred to earlier in this. We recorded twice his. Once when we tried to do the full band, and it was so we were doing The Unknown, Maggot Sex, and what was it? Was it just 2? It was just 2, I think. And we only recorded them because we wanted to put a couple of songs on the Fruit Machine CD. So we asked John if we could come over, and it's like, yeah, go on then, yeah. And we tried doing the drums. We tried so hard, but the mics weren't picking it up properly. And then we tried to we tried what we could, and then we gave up and did fake drums. So if you ever listen to those original demos, or the original few tracks that we recorded, you'll notice those drums are fake very clearly.
The stuff we did at Soul Space John's house, it's dire, really, isn't it? Like the recording.
It sounds like a bunch of kids, doesn't it?
It is, yeah, and it is a bunch of kids. That's the thing, and I suppose I'm listening to all of our recordings now with my hat on now of being a studio owner, running a course in music production, it being my life.
I think the thing was with those, you know, I didn't know how to record stuff back then. I mean, I barely do now. And I think what it was none of us had any money. None of us were going to go to a studio and record stuff. So we're like, well, we can probably do something. You know, we've got, you know, some attempt at doing it is better than nothing. So why don't we just do that? And I think that was always my approach with stuff, was like, well, I'd rather just throw in more of my own time than the money we didn't have, or, you know. So it was all very, it was like, you know.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you guys were, well, he was what 14 or 15.
Yeah.
You were 18, and it like you'd never done it before, so what can you expect?
Do you know what I always kick myself for the free machine stuff that we recorded?
What's that?
I never got to be on one recording.
Oh, that's right, because we did it at John's, didn't we?
Yeah, and I could never get there because I didn't drive. I think I can't remember how Kim got there. I think she got taken there once. My dad was like, "I'm fucking driving you up there."
We also did an acoustic version of "You're Evil to Me" in those at John's house. I recorded that on my 20th birthday, I think, or 20th or 19th, my 19th birthday, sorry. And then he did all his mixing, turned up to the pub with him, and it was like, yeah, because I was drunk, because it was my birthday, over at Mr. Q's in Thornton Heath, well, between West Croydon and Thornton Heath.
Without doing those things, without us arsing about in my bedroom, in John's house, and the other studio that I think we went to, which was, I remember it being in Selhurst, near the Brit School.
Yeah, it was just round there.
And it was in someone's basement. It was like underneath a block of flats, and there was one window in the whole thing. And I seem to remember that it was a pretty cool setup in terms of a home studio and I can't for the life of me remember what the name of the studio was.
Then we also recorded a demo of sorts, 3 tracks. It was "You're Evil to Me," the proper version this time, and "Forever Young" and "Suicide Booth." We recorded those at for some reason we've spent ages thinking it was Moon Studios, or it was called Moon Studios, but it wasn't. It was as a bit of recent research or a bit of recent evidence has proven was actually recorded at Backtrack Studios in Selhurst or Thornton Heath, between the two. But it was a guy's basement, and it was cool. It was a nice place, and we did our best, and it. Listening to it now, it's very quiet. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound cool, but that's one of the things that happens when you record music in 2003, 2003, yeah. It's just part of the journey.
Yeah, it was Selhurst, South Norwood. I still can't quite remember the name of the studio.
I think it was
I remember
Moon.
you picking me up in a cab with my drum kit, right?
Yeah.
And getting these tiny little booths, and we were all kind of separated in these small little sections into the studio. And I think we did 3 tracks, am I right?
Evil. I seem to remember that you went into a little garden bit, and then you went down some steps, and there was a basement door, and you opened it up, and there was the control room. And when I say control room, it was dark and dingy. And it wasn't an analog studio, but it was what's called a DTRS studio, which I didn't know at the time, but I now know. So they didn't use a computer to record. They used effectively just digital tape. So the editing for it was limited. And I seem to remember that was the case. And they had a big 32-channel mixing desk, and they edited onto this they recorded onto this digital tape. And there was almost no room in that. And then you went through into another room to almost like a room about half the size of a train carriage that was long and thin, that had some gobo dividers in it. And I sat up down the end where the only window was with my amp. And then I think you went in the middle.
Yeah.
I think. And then Sean went at the end near the door. And then coming off the control room in another bit, there was a small kitchen and a bathroom, and then a little drum room. And the drum room was cool because it was tiny. And the only thing I remember other than that is that they used that the chap there, who I think his name was Chris, I could be wrong. He had 2 really cool mics that even then I was sort of very impressed by. And I mean, without going into too much, mics now are like my favourite thing. Like, you can't see it in this shot, but just behind the cupboard there is another cupboard that is full of mics. But he had I mean, for the geeks out there watching this, an AKG D12 and an Electro Voice RE20, which we used on my guitar, and the D12 was used on Smeggy's bass drum, and the drums in that recording I think sound brilliant, like even now listening to them. But the guitar in that recording I think sounds shocking now, and I think it's my fault, because when you hire a studio for like what we did, if you hire a studio like Abbey Road, you go in with a producer and they're in charge of the sound. We went in effectively, he recorded a rehearsal. That's effectively what he did. We did it over and over again, but we all played live together. There was minimal editing, and he didn't sit there going, so what do you want your sound to be? Let's try this, let's try that. You're on a budget and stuff. And at that point, I used to plug my guitar pedal, my distortion pedal, straight into a power amp. I didn't have a guitar amp head. And so this sound coming from the guitar is like this kind of unprocessed, like there's no definition to that sound. And I was listening to it this week, and I just think, oh, there was, you know, everything. Sean's bass sounds really nice. The drums sound nice, and I think because we were between Joe and Mark, I think I did all the guitar parts, if I remember correctly. But this engineer put this really nice mic, which I've got 2 of now, and I know sound nice, and he was going through a really nice, I think, Soundcraft desk, and I just gave him this absolute garbage guitar sound, which is still on that recording. Obviously, it's still on that recording, and I kind of wish that hadn't happened.
Maggot 6.
With the recordings, you occasionally had your way with them. Let's talk remixes. So you did 2 specifically, 2 Brainfreeze ones anyway, that I know of. You may have done more. So there was Maggot 6, the Larvae Molester, which is probably the more famous of the 2, and You're Evil to Me 70s movie soundtrack version.
No, I don't remember that.
But let's talk the Larvae Molester.
I can't remember a huge amount about that, other than I tried to make it weird.
Well, you definitely achieved that.
I thought it didn't make sense because they're larvae and they can't copulate, so that was my main concern with it didn't ring true for me, that particular thing.
When I was about 13, I remember, I've got a very distinct memory of sitting in my parents' bed with my sister Alice, watching a VHS tape or documentary of Nirvana. And there's a bit in that video where Kurt Cobain, lead singer of Nirvana, talks about how he doesn't want to play Smells Like Teen Spirit anymore. And I thought, that's mad. That song that's the best song you've ever written. And within about 8 minutes of writing Sex, I felt the same.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, I was into that like stupid, obnoxious part of my teenage years when you guys had finished putting that particular piece of art together, and there was a part of me that was very much like, it is hilarious that they've taken this song that you wanted to write that you thought would be a good, like, you know, sort of filler song, and it's just been absolutely cut apart and glued back together and butchered horribly. And now, because I remember it being a very begrudging, like, I'll play it because it's become that song that people want us to play, but I don't want to have to play it for him. There was that sort of, you know, being best friends and being sort of lads. It was very much like, haha, you've got to play this song that you wrote that you now don't like anymore.
It's funny, isn't it? It's a funny song. If you showed me a clip of someone, you know, like falling off a swing or falling off a seesaw or something like that, that's funny. And Maggot Sex, the song, is also funny like that.
I mean, it's a shit song, but it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, because we were putting on a show, or to be more precise, you were putting on a show, and that was one of those catchy songs that we did right at the end, which really ramped up the crowd. They could all sing along with it. It was simple and catchy, and not very serious, and you know, people could kind of mosh to it and jump about. So as a sort of concept, it was great, and it's just a silly. But yeah, it was I guess that's my attitude towards it. Well, that was just a silly song that kind of served a purpose.
I don't even think that it's not a good song in terms of songwriting.
No,
the only good thing about it is that it was super catchy.
Well, what can you really say about Maggot Sex? It's only one word. It's Maggot Sex, Maggot Sex, Maggot Sex, Maggot Sex, Maggot Sex, Maggot Sex. Da da na 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 na. It's catchy, it's annoying, but you remember it. And that's why I really love the reggae version, because you can feel dit, 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 and it adds some depth to it. And you just wait for that breakdown bit. And like, la, 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 1, 2, 3, 4. I love that bit.
I can't hate it, can I? Why? You can't hate a video of someone falling off a seesaw because it's not meant to be anything more than that. It's just funny. Oh, ha ha ha. You know, la 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 la, ha ha ha, Maggot Sex, ha ha ha.
Maggot Sex.
I think if we'd have called it something else other than Maggot Sex, but you know, the reason we called it that. Hang on, let me put that down. I think the reason that it got called that is because we were all so into Slipknot and Korn and Limp Bizkit.
Juvenile.
Slipknot had come out and they were like really hard, heavy hitting. They had 9 members, 6 drummers, 15 guitarists, and it was nothing but shouting. And they would call their they would call their fans maggots. and they'd say, "Oh, I want you all you maggots out there," and so it was kind of cool and edgy to use that terminology.
Maggot, really good song. It's got a really good riff. The lyrics are quite easy, so you're listening to it after halfway through, you kind of know what the verse is going to go like. It's quite catchy as well, and yeah.
I don't think I gave it much thought. I thought it was funny more than anything else.
It was catchy and nonsense, and I think that's why it was good.
It was probably your most requested song.
Anyway, the riff is super catchy, but I think that, and I went along with it, and I loved the crowd singing it as well. Don't get me wrong, but I think after a few years of it, I didn't want that to be my peak.
Yeah, that's
what it
fair
was.
enough.
I didn't want that to be going like, oh look, there's Alan from Brainfreeze. He wrote.
I don't think it really set the world afire, but people enjoyed it when it came on.
It was like the song that you pretty much played at the end, wasn't it? Like
yeah.
Because it was catchy. It got everyone jumping up and down. I mean, the lyrics obviously were inspired.
I just loved the way that it was simple, punchy, and I loved the fact that people used to just wait to hear it, and they just wanted it and wanted it and wanted it. You play that song probably 15 times, and that would be a gig, and people would have been happy.
I think everyone felt a certain ownership of it. It was everyone's favourite Brainfreeze song. It was the song that Brainfreeze were known for, obviously. But I feel like it was, I don't know, because obviously it was the song you would close with as well, and you'd wait for the whole gig for it, and then it was almost like a release of energy when you played it. That everyone just went a bit mental, which felt quite. What's the word I'm looking for? It felt quite cathartic in a way.
Okay, what did I think whenever I heard Maggot Sex? Fight. That's pretty much it. It was like, oh yeah, there's that bass. Come on, circle pit going. Let's get in it. Yeah.
You can't expect Maggot Sex, in this day and age with the amount of shit that's in the charts. I'm not saying Maggot Sex is a shit song, but it's a hell of a lot better than the shit that's in the charts these days.
I suppose it will always be your brimful of ash, won't it?
It was something that really stood out, and at places like the cartoon where you don't get people dancing, you might get them near the front. You actually had a song that would get people moving and properly. And I think that was really, really good. It was such, it was complete nonsense, but it was such a catchy song. It had a great riff that you just recognized as soon as it started into it. And it was just a really good thing to jump around to.
I'll be honest. There was a time when I caught a glimpse of not fame, but fame, like a tenuous tentacle of fame, with one of my subsequent bands, and we were, on the verge of getting signed to a big record label, big independent record label. And it crossed my mind more than once that some video of Maggot Sex would resurface in one of those Auntie Bloomers type programs on BBC Two, where it's like, hey, look at what these people did before they were famous. I thought, if I ever get famous, that's going to be. And now, of course, in 2020, 2021, I'd be cancelled for that. If I was famous, the Twitter storm, oh, you sung a song about sex with maggots, and I'd try and issue an apology, and it wouldn't work. So I'd have to cancel myself.